Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about Kyle's video that he did on the strike of the hospital in Gaza that happened a couple days ago. I don't think that Kyle did a good job at covering this. And so I think he did a bad enough job to where I think it's worthy of covering. I also wanted to mention that I think a lot of people on the left, such as TYT, and I did a video on their coverage yesterday, I don't think that the left is doing that good of a job of covering this strike. I think they've made a lot of mistakes, and I think it's important to be able to show who is doing wrong and why the coverage is wrong. And now I think people like Kyle and TYT aren't as bad as some far lefties. I think those people have done an awful job, even malicious, bad actors. But I think for the left, not the far lefties, but the left, such as like I said, TYT, Kyle, are also not doing that good of a job. Not nearly as bad, but they're not doing well. So I wanted to start off at this point of the video. Where he mentions, talks about he's going to present the evidence that the IDF has showed, and he's going to mention this specific sort of evidence that the IDF is showing about two Hamas members talking about the missile strike. I think this is fine to be able to show as to what Israel or the IDF is showing as evidence as to why they are saying that it was Hamas or the Islamic Jihad. I think it's fine to be able to talk about this and show that they're doing this, but we have to understand that when we present this on either side, that we don't know if this video is actually real. And so we need to understand this. So that is the point for this video. I wanted to move up here. Let's go, I think 110. So this is another part. Kyle's going to be talking about the track record of the IDF, and I guess I'll let him talk about it.
So it just seems very convenient. And by the way, another important point is Shireen Abu Akleh. She was a Palestinian journalist, and she was gunned down by the IDF in a totally offensive, aggressive manner. She wasn't doing anything wrong, and they just murked her as a journalist. And I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but in the wake of that killing, they swore up and down, oh, no, it wasn't us. It was the Palestinians who killed her, and don't spread Hamas propaganda. It was definitely them. And then over time, when enough evidence came out, it was absolutely clear that it was not Palestinians or Hamas who killed her. It was the IDF. And then over time, they eventually were like, okay, yeah, you got us. It was us. So in other words, they have a track record of lying about these things.
Okay. So it's fine to bring up the track record of the IDF to say why you have distrust in them. But the issue is Kyle uses this later to say he thinks it was the IDF, when his position should be, because of these reasons, I trust the IDF. Because of these reasons, I distrust the IDF. So I will wait for the facts to come out. That's what he should be doing, but he's not going to do that. He's going to use this as evidence, and such as with the TYT video I did and the mistakes I think Cenk did, I think Kyle's going to does the exact same thing. So that is the point, basically the main point of this whole video, actually, my criticism of Kyle and why he says it was the IDF when he's not going to demonstrate any evidence. I'm going to further show this. Here's another part. Just a quick 10 seconds.
Where people are warned with artillery shells is the Gaza Strip, he said. So they say Saturday at about 7:30 at night, the IDF already had attacked this hospital.
Okay, So this is another example of him showing of the IDF having attacked the hospital. This is going to be, in his eyes, evidence as to why he believes that it was the IDF. So that's one point of evidence, or that's one of the evidence he's pointing to, which is not really evidence, but okay. Here's another part of another thing he mentions.
That's from the World Health.
This is him mentioning the IDF's attacks on healthcare facilities. So he brings this up. He also brings up 4 articles, a tweet having 4 articles of past instances of attacks on healthcare facilities by the IDF. So he's showing more reasons why he believes that this was the IDF, showing the history of them attacking healthcare facilities. So, and there's another one where let's skip ahead. 1458, so it should be here. So this is going to be other evidence of further evidence of why he believes it's the IDF.
As Israel's missiles do, okay? So now you're going to listen to what a Hamas missile sounds like, and then you're going to compare it to what an Israeli missile sounds like, and subsequently what the missile attack on the hospital sounded like. So let's listen to it. Okay, keep that in mind. That's a Hamas missile. Here's a U.S./Israeli missile.
Bombs out. Bombs away.
Way louder. It's not even close. Now here's the attack on the hospital. Look, I'm no expert, but that doesn't sound to me like it's from Hamas or Islamic Jihad, because they have these rinky-dink missiles, and that sounded like a legit, powerful missile attack. All right, but more. I got more.
Okay, so he says he's no expert, but still uses this as evidence to say why he thinks it's the IDF. Right? It's just bad. To using these things, such as past instances and the supposed nature of the way the missile sounded and exploded and the size of the explosion, is why I think it is. Well, you just admitted you're no expert, but then use this as evidence to suggest it was the IDF. Okay, it doesn't really make too much sense, but so next we're going to move up, actually, right here. Here, he shows again another more evidence of why he thinks the IDF did it. In this one, he talks about a deleted tweet that the IDF did, that they apparently had posted a fake video of the missile strike. So there's more here. Here, he shows a video of the BBC saying the explosion doesn't seem consistent with Hamas missiles, but does with the IDF ones, right? So he's further talking or showing that the way the missile sounded, or the how big the explosion was, is not consistent with a Hamas missile, right? So. And then he also does this with a MSNBC one, which is right here, just to show you. I know I'm not playing the video, but I'm showing you just the time space because I don't want to watch the whole video and make this video too long. So here is the part where he's talking about, or he's showing the MSNBC video. But in this specific one, with the MSNBC one, the guy also mentions about how the death toll is not consistent with an Hamas missile, because the Hamas missile doesn't tend to be powerful enough to be able to kill off this many people, but IDF missiles are. Okay, and then he uses this, and then skip a little bit ahead. So here I'm going to play a little bit of him talking about this.
So what's my conclusion? What's my take? Look, based on the size of the explosion, based on how many casualties there are, even at the low number I saw was 200. The high is over 1,000. Most people are reporting 500. But based on that, I don't see how it could have been a Hamas rocket or a Palestinian Jihad rocket. They just don't have that kind of firepower. And then the other thing is, they've been bombing hospitals already.
Okay, so he says it was the IDF, but has shown zero facts that it was them. Why say it was them when you don't know? You are making people believe it was the IDF with no evidence. Understand, the evidence that he has quote unquote evidence, that he has shown is not evidence. None of it has been. Actual facts of what of the specific attack. He hasn't shown anything, right? It's all been conjecture. It's all been just him thinking that, the way that the missile, the size of the explosion, the way it sounded, it seems like an IDF. But you don't know. So why say? It's just, and then also the issue that I had with TYT's video, and he does a similar thing, is he lays all of the foundation in terms of the history of the IDF attacking civilian infrastructure, killing civilians. In this instance, he's specifically talking, brings up the history of them attacking the hospitals. This isn't evidence. That only talks about the credibility, the trustworthiness of the IDF, but that doesn't say whether or not they actually did do this missile strike or not. It's very important to understand. Okay, so now we move on to 29 minutes. Here's going to be something else that he mentions. Or he's going to say something I want to mention.
I'm going to say that. In fact, Biden has already come out in a press conference with Netanyahu. He's in Israel right now, by the way. And Biden has said, based on the intelligence I've seen, your version of events is accurate, and it was definitely a misfired Hamas missile that hit the hospital. So they're already going with the Israeli line, even though the evidence for it is totally weak. Because look, nothing...
Okay. So he says that the evidence is totally weak on the IDF's part. Remember back, he said in the beginning of the video, he was talking about the evidence was one of the evidence, or if not the only evidence that the IDF has at least put to the public, is of the two supposed Hamas people talking about the missile strike. But Kyle says he thinks it was the IDF by not showing any evidence or facts that the specific attack on the hospital was the IDF. Again, it's very important to repeat this. It is also possible Biden seen evidence that the public doesn't have access to, making him saying these things, making him saying that he thinks it was a misfired rocket, completely possible. So understand, it could be absolutely possible that the information that Biden has seen is not something that the public has access to or will see just yet. So when Biden does say this, it could be absolutely possible. Understand, it could be totally possible. So to say that it's totally weak, well, you don't know if the evidence that he has personally seen, which could be classified evidence that is not going to be released just yet, possibly, or if not at all, as to why he believes and trusts Israel, or even seen the evidence that it was actually a misfired rocket. So for Kyle to say that it's totally weak, it's just we don't know if that's the case. right? It's just him just kind of just saying that. Okay, so we move on to here. It's going to be another clip.
So after the hospital was bombed, they were like, we're not even going to meet Biden. We're not even going to meet Netanyahu. We're not interested.
Okay. So he says they canceled the meeting. I can't really read. I don't know why the screen is kind of bugging out here. But he brings up this tweet talking about Jordan canceling the summit, right? So he says that they canceled the meeting because of this missile strike, but they didn't wait. Jordan didn't wait for the facts themselves before canceling the meeting. So this doesn't seem like it wasn't a concern of the truth of the hospital attack, just a way to show people that they care about the civilians. The facts were not out. We didn't know who did this, whether it was the IDF, Hamas, or Islamic Jihad. But Jordan comes out and says, oh, we don't want to do the meeting anymore because there was a hospital that killed 500 plus people. Numbers are even more, some are less, but hundreds of people. And so because you guys just did this, we don't want to talk to you guys because this is unacceptable. Well, they don't even know if the IDF did it. So people, again, and Cenk points to this too, in his video, and Kyle does the same thing here. Them doing this, them canceling the meeting, is just is nothing to do with the hospital attack. It has everything to do with publicly trying to seem like you really care about the civilians. Because again, we don't actually know who did it. So, yeah. And they themselves did not know it either. So here you skip ahead. Here's another thing. I don't know why the video is so bad. Maybe I refresh so it's a little clearer.
That was a lie.
Yeah, I don't know why it's a bit off. It's kind of glitchy out. Sorry about that. I don't know why. But I think you're able to read it. He brings up a poll about whether or not the public believes that if Iran was behind the attack on Israel. So this is what he talks about. Actually, let me skip a little bit more ahead. I think it's at 58.
Journal had their New York Times Judith Miller moment because they ran with an article saying, oh yeah, Iran was behind this. How do I know? Here's a Hamas official who says it. Now, Hamas has every reason in the world to lie, to drag Iran in because they want reinforcements.
Okay, so I wanted to mention this point about saying it's the Washington Post Judith Miller moment. And I think that's wrong, and I don't think that's correct to compare that. He goes further in a bit, and he himself will explain why it's not similar, why using that comparison is not correct.
The Iranians were shocked when the Hamas terror attack happened. I don't think you helped plan it if you were shocked, and we have U.S. intelligence proving that. So Iran did not help plan this attack, but because the media is so shameless, now you got a majority of Americans believing it.
Okay, so the difference, why this is not a good comparison in terms of, why this is not a good comparison to say that the Washington Post had their own Judith Miller moment was because Judith Miller was obtaining the information from the intelligence community. The intelligence communities, in the instance of the hospital, or rather specifically, the Washington Post article that said that Iran was behind this, the intelligence community came after multiple times. Blinken himself, other people have said that they do not believe that Iran was behind the specific attack that happened on October 7th. So, so when he compares this to the Judith Miller, and this was Washington Post's Judith Miller moment, it's not analogous, because a more comparable one would be if the intelligence community was also saying that Iran was behind it. If they were basically saying similar things, but they were actually flat out denying whether or not this was the case. Now, I don't know, obviously, Washington Post's sources, but seemingly it wasn't the intelligence community, given the fact that they, like I said, were denying these claims. And not just that, basically every news outlet was saying, we don't know whether Iran was, and the intelligence community is saying that it wasn't Iran, and that there is no evidence that Iran was behind the attack on October 7th. So it's not really comparable to call this the Washington Post Judith Miller moment. To conclude, similar to TYT, Kyle doesn't show any evidence to say why he thinks it was the IDF who struck the hospital. He uses the IDF's past history of bombings, deleted IDF tweets, and mainstream media videos that themselves don't show evidence to say it was the IDF. The correct approach is to say we don't have sufficient evidence or facts on who did it. Not just that, Kyle did this video yesterday morning when there was more information pointing to it being a failed Islamic Jihad missile that actually hit the hospital, and that it doesn't seem to be the case that there was hundreds of deaths, or the most popular number that was talked about, 500 plus deaths. Now understand that this is not definitive. We still don't know with certainty who did it, but it's not looking like it was the IDF based off the limited evidence. But for Kyle to do this video after some of this information came out and still presented the things he did and said it was the IDF is bad. Now, to be fair, he could have not seen it, but that still goes to the heart as to why he is wrong, because there is no evidence. He is not supposed to blame anybody until it is verified, but he does not do that. And I think this goes at the heart of most people. I think understanding the origins of it was as to why it was being alleged that it was the IDF, and the death toll, which again, like I said, most mainstream media and just media people in general were claiming that it was over 500. Some of the numbers got moved to around 200 to 300. Some were saying it was 800 plus. Even Kyle mentioned the range. Even some were saying over 1,000. Understand that it seemed these numbers and the claim that it was the IDF seemed to have originated from Hamas themselves. So when everybody goes on and says these numbers and spews it, and even people like Kyle goes and says, well, I do think it was the IDF, you are believing essentially in what Hamas said instead of what the IDF said. Now you could say, now you might say, oh, well, you're not supposed to believe either person. Exactly. You're not supposed to believe either person. You're supposed to wait for the facts and the evidence and it being verified as to who did it before saying who you think did it. You could just say, like I said earlier, that we don't know and we just need to wait. That is perfectly okay, and that is the right thing to do. And I don't believe that a lot of people are doing this, and this is why I think, like I said earlier, it's important to point out the people who are not doing this, and the people and to also explain why they are wrong in doing this, and to also show the videos of them doing this. I think an attack this big to get the information this wrong on an attack this big that has supposedly killed hundreds of people. This could add up to nearly 20% of the supposed death toll of Palestinian civilians, which is around about 3,000, and this supposedly had killed over 500 people. I mean, this is a massive attack, and it is extremely important during a time when a supposed massive attack happened, that we have to be extremely careful with the facts on where to point the fingers as to who is to blame for this attack. Because this does cause real world things, real world repercussions, such as the Jordan officials not taking a meeting with Biden because they believe that it was the IDF, when, again, based off the limited evidence, it's not definitive, that it doesn't seem to point to it being the IDF. And they canceled that because they believed it was the IDF. This belief in pointing fingers and saying it was somebody without knowing actually has real world consequences. So I think it's important to call it out. I think it's important for people to understand why they're wrong. This is why I'm doing this, and it shouldn't be done. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So.